This is a sample of a coded oral reading passage for a student. Since this is a standardized assessment, use established guidelines to count errors and assess all of your students in the same way. It is important for all teachers in this district to use the same system. You can see the most common code is the check mark. The check mark indicates the student has read the word accurately. If a student is reading very quickly, you may not have time to mark every check mark above every word. It is okay to eliminate them and just focus on when the students have made an error and you need to indicate what that error was. To learn how to code and score an oral reading passage completed by a student, refer to the Coding and Scoring at a Glance resource that's found in the Assessment Forms book. In this table, we will learn about the behavior, a description of what that reader does, how to code it, an example of that code, and how that is scored as an error or not an error. It will take a while to be proficient with the coding system and knowing how to score it. So having this table as a resource as you do your first few assessments will be beneficial. You can see that the behavior that we'll be observing are things like substitutions, self-corrections, insertion, omission, repetition, rereading, appealing for words. Sometimes you may have to tell a student a word. We may observe them spelling out words or sounding out words. All of those are behaviors we'll see during the oral assessment, and we'll need to know how to code these so we can then apply a score to it. We talked about the check mark as being indicating accurate reading. And as you look down the example column, you'll see that a lot of times we're writing above the word where the student made an error what that attempt was or what they actually said with the word. We often have students that will reread a section. So you'll just mark with an arrow over the top where they start and finish for that rereading. And rereading is not considered to be an error. And then how to score it, you'll see that sometimes a behavior is indicated as no error. Self-corrections will be no errors. But if you skip a word, it's counted as an error. So this will be something that you'll need to practice. With especially fluent readers, you may get behind in your coding. If you get very far behind, ask the reader to stop and wait a moment at the end of the page. Or, if the coding is mixed up, ask the student to start over at a good point. For more information about coding and scoring, refer to the Assessment Guides, Section 2, Administering Coding and Scoring.